The stellar scavenger wasn't much to look at, a patchwork of salvaged parts held together by hope and engineering genius. But to Nadia Flores, it was freedom incarnate. She guided her ship through the debris field of the abandoned Centauri mining station, humming softly to herself as she scanned for anything valuable. Jackson, run another sweep. Focus on Quadrant 4, she instructed her ship's AI. Already on it, Captain, the AI replied, its voice carrying a hint of the Irish accent she'd programmed it with on a whim. Detecting unusual energy signature at coordinates 4280903, organic and technological. Nadia frowned, tapping her console. Organic out here, everything should be long dead. Nevertheless, I'm detecting life signs, weak but present. Curiosity piqued, Nadia adjusted her course. 6 years as an independent salvager had taught her that the unexpected often led to the most profitable finds or the most dangerous. She checked her sidearm, more habit than necessity. The stellar scavenger drifted toward a half-crushed observation dome. Inside, barely visible through the cracked transparisteel, a figure sat motionless. "Well, I'll be damned," Nadia whispered. "Jackson, prepare the airlock, I'm going in." The magnetic boots of her environment suit clanked against the station's exterior as she made her way to the dome. Her helmet lights revealed more details of the interior, scattered personal effects, a small power generator still functioning, and the figure. Tall, slender, with alabaster skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner luminescence. Not humans. Nadia had encountered plenty of alien species in her travels, but this one she didn't recognize. Its form was humanoid but more elegant, with elongated limbs and a crest of fine, translucent filaments where hair might be on a human. Most striking were the markings across its skin, intricate patterns that pulsed faintly with bioluminescence. She tapped her comm. "Jackson, run a species identification." Running comparison, subject appears to be Thorin, reclusive species known for their advanced biotechnology and musical arts, rarely encountered outside their home systems. "What would one be doing out here?" she muttered. The being's eyes opened suddenly, deep violet irises focusing on her with startling clarity. Nadia froze, her hand instinctively moving to her weapon. The alien raised its hands slowly, palms outward. "Peace," it said, the universal translator in Nadia's helmet converting its melodic language. "I mean no harm." "That makes two of us," Nadia replied cautiously. "I'm Captain Nadia Flores of the salvage vessel Stellar Scavenger. Want to tell me how you ended up in this floating graveyard?" The alien stood with fluid grace despite obvious weakness. "I am Kelthorn, fourth harmonic of the celestial chorus. My transport was damaged in an asteroid collision. I managed to reach this station before my life support failed." Nadia studied him, nodding the way his markings dimmed slightly as he spoke. An indication of depleted energy, according to the limited information scrolling across her helmet display. "How long have you been here?" "By your measurement, perhaps 27 cycles." "Days?" Nadia's eyes widened. "You've been alone here for almost a month." Kelthorn's markings pulsed once brightly. "Time passes differently when one meditates, but yes, my supplies are nearly exhausted." Nadia considered her options. Standard salvage protocol discouraged picking up strays, too many complications. But leaving someone to die, even an alien, wasn't her style. "Well, looks like today's your lucky day. I've got room for a passenger if you don't mind sharing space with spare parts and the occasional contraband." The alien's eyes seemed to shimmer with emotion. "Your kindness is unexpected." "Don't thank me yet, my shower's temperamental and the food's worse." She gestured toward the exit. "Think you can make it to my ship? Atmosphere's thin, but my scans say it should be compatible with your physiology." Kelthorn nodded, gathering a small case, presumably containing personal belongings, and approached her with that same fluid movement. Once aboard the scavenger, Nadia watched as the alien took in his new surroundings. The ship was cluttered but clean, with modifications and personal touches throughout. A collection of small trinkets from various worlds adorned her console, the only decorative items she allowed herself. "So," she said, removing her helmet, "where were you headed before your unfortunate collision?" Kelthorn's eyes fixed on her face with something like wonder. "Your appearance, it is different without your protection." "That's how humans work," Nadia replied with a half-smile. "No fancy light shows or translucent skin, just boring old flesh and blood." "Not boring," he said softly, "fascinating." There was something about the way he said it, genuine curiosity without judgment, that made Nadia uncomfortable in a not entirely unpleasant way. "You didn't answer my question," she reminded him. "I was journeying to perform at the Galactic Cultural Exchange. My people rarely leave our systems, but I was selected to represent our musical traditions. You're a musician, Nadia's interest grew. What do you play? Kelthorn opened his case, revealing an instrument unlike anything Nadia had seen, crystalline structures arranged in concentric circles, with thin filaments connecting them. This is a soul harp. It responds to both touch and emotional resonance. His long fingers caressed the instrument, drawing forth a sound so hauntingly beautiful that Nadia felt goosebumps rise on her arms. The melody lingered in the air like stardust, delicate and ethereal. For a moment, Nadia forgot about salvage quotas and fuel costs, lost in the otherworldly sound. That's incredible, she said finally. It is a simple gratitude melody, Kelthorn explained, his markings brightening. For my rescue. Jackson's voice interrupted the moment. Captain, I've plotted a course to the nearest trading outpost. Estimated arrival 22 hours. Nadia nodded, returning to her practical self. Right. Well, Kelthorn, you can stay in the spare cabin. It's small, but it beats a dying space station. As she showed him to his quarters, Nadia couldn't help noticing how gracefully he moved, how his markings responded to his environment, brightening near her console's displays, dimming in the corridor's shadow. Rest, she advised. We'll figure out where to drop you once we reach Helios Station. Kelthorn bowed slightly. You have saved more than my life, Captain Flores. You have preserved the music I carry. Something in his tone made Nadia pause at the door. Everyone deserves a second chance, even mysterious aliens with pretty lights and prettier music. His markings pulsed briefly with what might have been amusement. Indeed, perhaps this encounter was written in the cosmic song all along. I don't believe in destiny, Nadia replied with a shrug. Just lucky timing and good choices. As she returned to her cockpit, Nadia tried to ignore the strange feeling that her carefully ordered life had just shifted into uncharted territory. One rescue mission, she reminded herself. Drop him off, collect a reward if possible, and continue on. Yet the haunting echo of Kelthorn's soul harp lingered in her mind, calling to something deep and forgotten within her, a longing for connection that no amount of salvage could satisfy. The stellar scavenger hummed steadily through the void, its engines working harder than usual to maintain standard velocity. Nadia frowned at her diagnostic panel, tapping a series of commands as she monitored the fluctuating power readings. Jackson, what's our status on the secondary fuel cells? Operating at 67% capacity, Captain. The strain of carrying additional mass is notable but manageable. Nadia glanced toward her passenger quarters. She hadn't seen Kelthorn since showing him to his cabin 12 hours ago. Part of her wondered if the alien was avoiding her, though another part suspected he might be recovering from his ordeal on the abandoned station. Additional mass, she muttered. He can't weigh more than 70 kilos. His physiological composition affects ship sensors differently, Jackson explained. Thorin biology incorporates trace elements not found in most carbon-based life forms. They're essentially walking energy conductors. This piqued Nadia's interest. Is that why he glows? In simplified terms, yes. Their bioluminescent patterns serve as both communication and emotional regulation. Nadia pondered this as she adjusted their course to avoid a minor radiation cloud. A species that wore their emotions literally on their skin, what would that be like? Humans spent so much time hiding their feelings, pretending to be fine when they weren't. There was something appealing about such transparency. A soft sound from behind made her turn. Kelthorn stood in the cockpit entrance, his tall form almost touching the low ceiling. His luminescent patterns were brighter now, pulsing with gentle rhythmicity. You look better, Nadia observed, hungry. I have consumed the nutrient supplements from my case, he replied. They are sufficient. Nadia raised an eyebrow. Sounds delicious. Sure you don't want to try some real food? I've got protein packs that only taste slightly like recycled boots. His head tilted slightly, the gesture reminiscent of confusion. Why would one wish to consume footwear? A laugh escaped her before she could stop it. It's a joke, human humor. Sometimes we exaggerate the unpleasantness of things. Ah, his markings rippled in what might have been understanding. Voluntary misrepresentation for amusement purposes. We have similar practices, though they typically involve harmonic disruptions rather than verbal falsehoods. Musical jokes, Nadia smiled. I'd like to hear that sometime. Kelthorn moved further into the cockpit, his movements deliberate and fluid. He gestured toward the co-pilot's seat. May I? Be my guest. Gets lonely talking to nothing but an AI for weeks at a time. As he settled beside her, Nadia couldn't help but notice how the ambient light played across his alabaster skin, highlighting the subtle contours of his face. Despite his alienness, there was something undeniably beautiful about him. Your vessel, he said after a moment, it carries many stories. Nadia frowned. What do you mean? The modifications, the repairs, each represents a challenge overcome, a narrative of persistence. His gaze swept over her collection of trinkets, and these objects hold emotional resonance for you. They're just souvenirs, she said defensively. Perhaps to others, his voice was gentle, but I sense their significance. My people are attuned to emotional harmonies. Nadia shifted uncomfortably. The idea that her feelings might be readable to him was unsettling. So what, you're psychic? Not in the way you mean. We perceive emotional energy as humans perceive sound, as vibrations with distinct patterns. He hesitated. Your energy is complex, bright with determination, shadowed by solitude. Didn't realize I'd signed up for therapy when I rescued you, Nadia said, attempting humor to mask her discomfort. Kelthorne's markings dimmed slightly. I have overstepped, my apologies. An uncomfortable silence settled between them, broken only by the ship's operational sounds. Nadia focused on her controls, though there was little that required her attention during this stretch of deep space. Finally, curiosity overcame her irritation. So this celestial chorus you mentioned, what is it exactly? His markings brightened immediately. It is our highest artistic collective. We create harmonic fields that influence emotions, heal wounds, even communicate across vast distances. Music that heals, Nadia couldn't keep the skepticism from her voice. All existence is vibration, Captain Flores. The difference between matter and energy is merely frequency. His long fingers moved as if playing invisible strings. My people have simply learned to manipulate these frequencies with precision. Call me Nadia, she said suddenly. Captain Flores sounds too formal for someone who can apparently read my emotional frequencies. This earned her what appeared to be a Thorin smile, a subtle brightening around his eyes and a ripple of luminescence across his facial markings. Nadia, he repeated, the name sounding musical in his voice, a pleasant resonance. Jackson's voice interrupted. Captain, incoming transmission from Helios Station. They're requesting identification and cargo manifests. Put it through, Nadia said, straightening in her seat. A gruff voice crackled through the speakers. Unidentified vessel approaching Helios perimeter. Transmit credentials and state your business. This is Captain Nadia Flores of the Stellar Scavenger. Independent Salvager. Registration code TT7392E, returning from the Centauri sector with miscellaneous salvage and one passenger requiring transport. A pause. Passenger unregistered on your departure manifest, Captain. Rescue case, Nadia explained. Found him stranded at the abandoned Centauri mining station. Species and identification. Nadia glanced at Kelthorin, who nodded permission. Thorin, name Kelthorin, cultural envoy to the Galactic Exchange. Another longer pause. Stand by for verification. Nadia muted the transmission. Is there a problem I should know about? Kelthorin's expression remained serene, but his markings had dimmed to barely visible pulses. My people are selective about our interactions with other species. It is unusual for a Thorin to travel alone or to accept assistance from outsiders. Great, so I might have caused some kind of diplomatic incident. It is more likely they are simply confirming my identity. The cultural mission was approved by our council. The transmission crackled back to life. Stellar Scavenger, you're cleared for approach to Docking Bay 17. Be advised that standard quarantine protocols will apply to your Thorin passenger. Acknowledged Helios Control, beginning approach. Nadia cut the transmission and turned to Kelthorin. Quarantine, that sounds ominous. A precaution, nothing more. My species carries symbiotic microorganisms that can interfere with certain technologies. Nadia programmed the approach vector, then leaned back in her chair. Well, looks like we'll be saying goodbye soon. I assume there's someone at Helios who can arrange your continued journey to the cultural exchange. Something flickered across Kelthorin's features, too quick to interpret. Yes, though the exchange will have concluded by now, I will need to make alternate arrangements. Sorry about that if I'd found you sooner. The timing was as it was meant to be, he replied. I believe your human expression is everything happens for a reason. Nadia snorted. Another concept I don't buy into. Life's just a series of random events we try to make sense of after the fact. Perhaps, his markings pulsed thoughtfully. Or perhaps what seems random is merely harmony too complex for us to perceive. As Helios Station grew larger in the view screen, a sprawling complex of interconnected modules orbiting a gas giant, Nadia found herself strangely reluctant to reach their destination. Their conversations over the past hours had awakened something in her, a curiosity about the universe beyond salvage runs and profit margins. "Before we dock," Kelthorne said quietly, "would you permit me to offer a gift?" Nadia raised an eyebrow. "What kind of gift?" He retrieved his soul harp from beside the seat where he'd placed it earlier. "A composition, created during my meditation in your guest quarters." Before she could respond, his fingers began to dance across the crystalline structures, drawing forth music that seemed to bypass her ears and flow directly into her consciousness. Unlike the earlier melody of gratitude, this was more complex, layered with emotions she couldn't name, evoking images of vast starfields and impossible colors. As the final notes faded, Nadia realized her cheeks were wet. She wiped at them hastily, embarrassed. "What was that?" "Your essence as I perceive it," Kelthorne said simply, "translated into harmonic form." "That's me." She couldn't reconcile the beautiful, complex melody with her self-image as a pragmatic salvager. "The you beneath the armor you wear," he confirmed. "The you that responds to beauty, that seeks meaning in the void." Nadia swallowed hard, unaccustomed to feeling so exposed. "Well, thank you, I don't know what else to say." "No words are necessary, your emotional response is eloquence enough." His markings pulsed with warmth. As the ship's automatic docking sequence engaged, Nadia found herself facing an unexpected realization. She didn't want him to leave. In the span of a day, this alien had seen more of her true self than anyone had in years. What if, she began, then stopped herself? What was she thinking? Their worlds couldn't be more different. "Yes," Kelthorne prompted gently. Nadia shook her head. "Nothing, just wondering what the going rate is for rescuing alien musicians these days." His markings flickered with what might have been amusement. "Higher than you might imagine, Nadia Flores, far higher indeed." The ship settled into its docking cradle with a gentle shudder, and Nadia busied herself with shut-down procedures to avoid meeting his gaze. Whatever strange connection had formed between them would soon be severed by the practicalities of their separate lives. Or so she told herself, even as the music he'd created for her echoed in her memory, challenging everything she thought she knew about herself and her solitary existence among the stars. "Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses."